Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond, broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off. Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today we have a great friend, one that's from Laredo, Hector Patino. How are we doing?
Good, Juan. Thank you for inviting us over.
Oh, well, thank you for standing up, because we were talking the other day about some of the situations that were going on in the city, and you told me something that it hasn't changed. What hasn't changed? Tell me your concerns.
When I first ran in 2007, it's been a little bit over 10 years. I ran against Jorge Vera, and one of the major concerns that we both had at the time was the traffic in Mans Road. It's a big issue then.
It's a big issue now.
It's a big issue now, and it continues to be a big issue. I don't understand why there's a huge problem of trying to get it organized, whereas the city can have a safety plan for that area. And the problem with that area is Laredo's become one of the #1 ports in the U.S.
And it's the #1 port now.
It is the #1 besides San Francisco. It used to be San Francisco. Now, because of the China products, Laredo's become the #1 import for the U.S. with 18 billion annually of trade with the U.S. and Mexico. And so with that amount of money coming in, and coming in through the bridges, because the city owns the bridges, and it actually funds 1/3 of the city budget. I don't understand why it has not been able to get fixed, that problem with the traffic. One of the problems that they say, and I've heard it over and over, is that the problem is at the bridge at the Mexican side. Their infrastructure, their computer systems usually goes down, they shut down, and they have to reset, but the reset takes 3 to 4 hours to reset again and to get all that traffic flowing again. And so in the meantime, every truck driver or every truck 18-wheeler is stuck on Mines Road on the World Trade Bridge, and it's stuck there for hours and hours. So one of the things that I discussed is early on with George Alkett, the council member from that area, was get police presence in there and try to fix this problem that we have. Now, my understanding was, I think it was 1.5 years ago, the same situation occurred, the same scenario. Mind you, it happens every other day. People living in that area see it every other day.
There's way too many complaints.
And
I've heard it from way too many people. Their main complaints is what happens if there's an emergency.
That's where I'm getting.
You cannot get people in there.
Yes, right.
Here's something that we'll touch base, because it's very important. I thought there was some kind of Riverside Road or River Road or something that connected those bridges together. Isn't there one?
There is a road that is the Riverside Road that connects World Trade Bridge. It hasn't really connected. As of right now, it's not connected yet.
What seems to be the problem?
I think that every landowner in that area has already agreed to donate or sell their property to the city, except to one landowner, which is the Muller's La Bota Ranch. George Alkett's position, the council member position, is he wants the landowners, to donate that properties or that lands to the city. La Bota's, Mr. Muller's position is, I'll sell it to the city, but I'm going to donate it.
Of course.
And he has the right to do that. He has donated properties for schools, for parks. He has donated a lot of land to the city already.
If that has been going on for such a long time, and that is a holdup, it bewilders me that the city has not tried eminent domain on that portion of the land.
And the problem with the eminent domain is, even if they try it, if they file for the eminent domain, they still have to pay market value for that property, which the council member doesn't want to do. That's the issue. He doesn't want to pay for that property. And so
this is just because
because a council member refuses to sit down at a table, negotiate a price, or allow the eminent domain to take its course and to pay market value for that property, create that river. But let me mind you, even if you create that outer loop or that road, Riverside, it doesn't take care of the 18-wheelers. The 18-wheelers are still going to be there. So every time that Mexico's infrastructure or their system goes down, the 18-wheelers are going to stay there. And one of the stories I was going to say is, last year, there was a lady trapped on the Loop 20 and the Road Trade Bridge, and rather than waiting there the 3-4 hours, she decided to move to go one way against the bridge, and that's where an accident happened. And an older lady, another lady was in an accident and had a grandchild behind her, and was thrown over the bridge, and the child passed away. You get into those type of positions where people start panicking because after a few hours, it gets frustrated to see. My solution has always been, and I've talked to when Chief Torres was there, was reroute the traffic for the 18-wheelers, remove them completely from the Mines Road area. When that happens, create a safety plan where, okay, the system is going down, let's remove all the 18-wheelers from that area and reroute them or redirect them to the Columbia Bridge, and let them wait on the Columbia Bridge Road, because the traffic of the Mines Road or the residential area is not being affected. The problem is that if in case of emergency, like you just said, ambulances
can I go into? There's no other veins to hit 35. It's only that one, Peñitas at Tiendas Road, that hits Colombia. And go down towards 35. That's the only way. And so there's everything right there is a bottleneck.
That's right.
And this is not a problem of this administration. This is a problem that's been there for several administrations.
It's been there for a good while. And all it is someone creating, the council member taking the lead, taking the initiative to create a safety plan for that area. Let me give you an example. There's been several spills on the Mines Road area where people are not even notified there was even a chemical spill there. And it's dangerous to have a chemical spill because if there's a spill over there of a chemical, who knows that could happen, a fire or even something more dangerous. But there's not a system where in Dallas or in Fort Worth or a tornado in Oklahoma, there's a tornado, even a weather that there might be a tornado, there's an alarm system.
There's a warning.
There's a warning that happens, and so people automatically know.
You know, I don't. You remember Dr. Farias, Hector Farias,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It was Vida. He had addressed one thing years back, about 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, about a lot of the warehouses in that area were basically storing hazardous material.
That's right.
And they were just storing them there. They couldn't get them across. They just left them there. They were being stored with temperatures that were exceeding the norm, that very dangerous level. That in some of these chemicals, if they went, half the population in that area, depending on the wind, would not be around because of this.
That's right.
And nothing has ever. I don't know if anything has been done. I don't know if EPA got a hold of it or anything like that. Can you?
I don't.
Do you know anything about that?
I don't think that there's ever been an evaluation on the whole warehouses industry. There hasn't been one, and that's why the safety plan has to be created, because there's not an assessment that has been done over that area. What other dangers could be there? One is what they're storing there in their facilities, or what the 18-wheelers are carrying. Now with the cold storage there, it makes it more difficult and more, they have other permits where more chemicals who are dangerous for that area are being permitted, and you don't advise the residents. You know, I worked in the criminal system for a long time, for many years, and when a sex offender lives in a neighborhood, the neighborhood is advised, hey, you have a sex offender here. But why is it that in this industry we cannot advise the residents there's a chemical that is here that is very dangerous for your family and your kids?
I don't know is there any laws into that? Maybe we should look into it.
There has to be laws, but the shareholders who are responsible for that is the city. They are the ones. The city is the one who are responsible for ensuring that we have a safe community where we live in. Especially right now, one of the things that is going on in La Bota is that they went to city council to object. One of the issues is that they want to build their warehouse, a chemical warehouse, right there in the entrance in front of an elementary school. It's a no-brainer. They should have already known that a warehouse in front of our elementary school shouldn't be allowed, and you shouldn't have residents protesting it. I mean, it should be common sense. But it goes back to the council member where I don't understand, he's an attorney, but he doesn't have the time to focus on his district. I think now they're making up to $60,000 each council member with all their little perks that they're having. So I don't understand why he can't dedicate some days, one day of the week or afternoon, give me a half a day, and dedicate time to focus on all these issues that are so concerning for District 7. I mean, our community, it's not about politics, it's more about the safety about our children. The moment you allow a warehouse in front of an elementary, the moment you allow an 18-wheeler carrying dangerous chemicals go through that area and not have a safety plan in place, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Well, with that being said, now you're very passionate about that. I'm going to ask you this question. Have they told you to step up, to run? Are you trying to get, maybe contemplating running?
Let me be honest with you, Paul. It's I get phone calls every single day. People complaining about this area, and they tell me, Patino, you need to do something because the current council member, he doesn't live in this area. So he doesn't understand the traffic that we have every single day.
But he lives in the district, though.
He lives in the district. He lives on Dermar, and so because the district goes all the way a little bit to the north side, He lives over there, but he doesn't really understand or comprehend what is going on in the Mines Road. The other is the parks. You got Father Magdalene Park right there, not addressed at all. No improvements whatsoever for the children. You should see them on the weekends. It's packed with families, but you don't have them, up to par what they're supposed to be. And so I'm contemplating it, Paul, because all these issues, people call me every day. My Facebook, sometimes it goes crazy when people are calling me, texting me and saying, hey, something needs to change in this area, where someone really cares. And one of the biggest complaints is he doesn't answer the phone calls. He doesn't listen to the people. I think he's done 2 or 3, public hearings, but he's really not understanding what the needs are in that area. Mines Road is a huge area, and I think that if he would have started since day one working on all those issues, it would have been fixed by now. Perfect example, the traffic on the Mines Road. You can remove all the 18-wheelers and reroute them. Every time that there's an emergency, we route the traffic all the time. Why can't we do it on those situations so that way the residents in that area could be safe and our kids could be safe? Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
You see, that's what gets me. There's been issues that have been around for 20 years. Okay?
Yes.
And everybody just seems to kick the can down the street. Oh, let's kick the can down the street.
Somebody else will take care of it.
No, it's time to act now.
That's right. That's right.
And it's kind of like, let's wake up. Let's do it now. And let's stop all this nonsense and let's just start dealing with the issues that we have. And we have to start cleaning up, like they say, our own backyard before you start pointing the finger at somebody else. Clean your own house first, then go out and start into the community.
That's right.
But when we're dealing with people always calling you that this is wrong, what can we do about this? This issue's come of age, and it's always the same issue. The city has to start acting as a unit and say, you know what, let's address this. I know that they're trying to address, the loop and that connection that's off of over 35, but still there's that has been going on for such a long time that has not yet been finished. I do not know the particulars about it, but we do need other veins to start leaving, not just Mines Road, to go around there. But this has been, like I said, this has been around not 25 years easy.
It's been going on for many years, Paul, but even if you create the Riverside Road, and even if you do another road which connects 35 to the Mines Road,
traffic.
Even if you do that, you still have to have a safety plan in place for emergencies, because otherwise you're still going to end up with congested traffic. Why is it that big cities have been able to, move the traffic, even though that there's a lot of traffic going on, but they're able to flow that traffic very well? Why is it that we can't do it? Why is it that Laredo can't get its can get it together and organize a safety plan and flow? They already know the high peaks. Mines Road peak is between 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So concentrate in those hours, and it's Monday to Friday where the heaviest traffic is going on with the 18-wheelers. Let's get something in place in there where you actually have law enforcement there moving the flow of traffic at a faster pace. At the same time, making sure that everybody's safe. In case of an emergency, there's something that we can do, and it's good for that.
Have you tried speaking out towards reaching out to the councilman?
I've sat with him several times, many times, where we have these discussions. But his positions are, he's an attorney, so he's thinking as an attorney versus he's not thinking as someone who lives in that area and wants to get a better outcome for the safety of that area. He thinks, in a very different way than most individuals think. And I respect the attorneys who are in the council and are doing a good job, but for some reason, he doesn't get it, that this is priority number one, should he would have been actively working on it since day one. And I think it's a huge issue because of the Mines Road. Now, you're right. It's been, my grandfather opened the Mines Road many years ago. When my grandfather used to own Sand and Gravel, and they opened a lot of the road and Mines Road, Peñitas, all the way to Colombia. So it's been an issue for a long time. My question is, why is it taking it this long?
The problem that we see in Laredo, a lot of things have come up in bit us in the ass, if I can use that expression. Stuff that was not taken care of in the 80s and 90s, they kind of, all of a sudden now, boom, we got a big problem. We had a situation for so many years that they didn't open up other routes.
That's right.
They have them on plan, and all of a sudden, this is where a street's supposed to be in. Oh, wait a minute, so-and-so's going to be building here. Oh, you know what, let's build it for them, you know? All of a sudden, there's no other exit. Now there's a shopping mall there, or what have you, there, housing. And that's what happened in the 90s and early 2000s. And now, all those problems have already caught up because there's more people living in these areas, there's more traffic going on, and there's no other outlets. So right now I think that not only the police, concerned citizens like you all, and I think the state engineers that TxDOT, they all have to sit down and say, okay, let's address this plan, okay? And this is what I look and I commend everybody, and especially in the city. 2 weeks ago, they opened up the Anti-Animal Cruelty Personnel Committee, something to that effect, where they got all the police departments, agencies, all the ABC agencies together, and they formed a committee with individuals that they picked, that if your dog is barking at night or they think your dog is sickly looking, all of a sudden you get
animal cruelty.
Yeah, animal cruelty docked to you, and you're going yourself in court, and they're going to put you in there. But yet they cannot come in to build some type of committee. Oh, we have a problem over here. This is actually more problem than a dog that's barking at night and has fleas, even though that's a problem as well. The safety of human beings first, and that's where what are we losing?
At the end of the day, Paul, it's about leadership. You need to take that leadership. You need to take an initiative on the concerns area. But that's why the council member for those districts have to live in that problem area. If he doesn't, and that's why it was created for that reason, so that council member can say, you know what, I'm going through this traffic every day, let me do something about it. But if you're not seeing it every day, it doesn't bother you, because you're not living it day in, day out. The people on Mines Road, we all are living it every day. And the problem has been in the master plan, and you're correct. The master plan, the original intent of the city was to make the warehouse district. All that area was supposed to be a warehouse district. It was never intended for residential. It was never. But a huge landowner decided to say, you know what, let me start selling the property because I need to sell it, and let's start making houses and let's develop it for residential area. To sell it fast, to make money fast, the city allowed it. And so now you have warehouses mixed with residential areas, and you don't have a plan. How do you have a safety plan for everybody in that area? And so we have to go back to the original plans and say, okay, let's stop granting residential and let's work on a safety plan. Why continue developing residential when you know that the warehouses are going to become a bigger business in Laredo?
What gets me is, and I'm going to go back into this, everybody's so thrilled on gutting all the streets for bike lanes. I want to find out what's going to happen when they start gutting Hines Road and making bike lanes there, and making the streets a little bit smaller because the cyclists go out there. You know, I'm all for safety.
That's right.
Okay? But we do not live in Peking, China, where everybody rides a bike. We do not live in Seoul, Korea. We do not live in those, areas. So we have Hong Kong.
Let me tell you a story.
You know what I'm saying? Where all of a sudden we're going to what's going to happen with all those trucks? You're going to do what?
There was actually a developer who was developing in the entrance of Mines Road a warehouse. And the whole project was stopped because a council member, George Alka, came up and said, we need a bike route or a bike trail on this warehouse. So the landowner and the developer came to me and said, Hector, can you come to the city and see how can you help us out? They don't allow us to build because they want a bike or a walk trail. I sat with the city and each council member, and I explained to them, it does not make sense to put a bike trail or a walking trail in middle of warehouses where you're going to have 18-wheelers coming and going.
It's called safety.
It's called safety. It's just common sense. You just don't do that. But this is their mentality of doing things. Let me just put a backing trail in the middle of 18-wheelers, and there's 10,000 trailers, but let's just put one right here because I think it's going to be looking good. That mentality puts people in danger. And when things happen, accidents happen. And someone told me this week, Patinos, you know when they're going to listen? When someone actually dies. When a bus full of children get in an accident, a chemical spill, and die, it's sad. But that's when they're going to start doing something. Something bad has to happen for them to get the alarm and to get that warning. Hey, move on this. But it's crazy. Those things don't need to happen, Paul. Those things don't need to happen. The city needs to pep up and say, hey, let's work on this.
You know, when I was a kid, we used to ride bikes, okay? And one summer we used to go down the mall with the drain pipes would go up and down and everything else. And we're there with a couple of friends, and the entrance where Sears is at, not the part in front of Fuddruckers is at, the other part that connected that street, it didn't have a light, didn't even have a stop sign, okay? And guess what? Some girl went through there, some car hit her. And I remember the girl yelling, because we're all kids looking at this, and that young lady bled to death there. And then somebody said, finally we might be able to get a light. But it took them another 3 years to put a light there. Because they needed so many accidents to fulfill the light.
To justify.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm sorry. You know, safety is first?
Safety is first. You know, I have a personal story, Paul. I lived on the west side on Lafayette. And so every day, I would go to school every day, walking. You know, back then, our parents didn't have cars like now. People have 5 cars in their driveway. Back then, we would go walking to school and come back. And we would usually take, which is Madison, or we would take Lafayette to go down the street, going to our house. So it happens that back then, they didn't have the safety precautions that they would take for railroads. So back in 92, I was a freshman in high school. I had an accident with the train, you know, where my sister is in the middle of the tracks. The train is reversing. We didn't hear it. There's nothing there. I grab her, push her, try to push her. The train hits us and hits us both, and we go under the train. You know, in the process, I lose my left arm. They didn't have a bridge. They didn't have the poles. They didn't have a stop sign. They didn't have lights. You know, and Judge Liendo, Hector Liendo was the council member then, is when he decided to put a bridge on Lafayette and say, we need to put a bridge here so that our kids are coming from school or going to school, it doesn't hurt the children. But it's sad, but you're right. Sometimes bad things need to happen so that we can change the way we think about safety in our community. I'm hoping and praying, Paul, that something like that doesn't happen in Mines Road until we get our act together.
No, I think we have enough heads that have a good sense of direction that can stop and say, you know what, let's look this over and move forward. I know Councilman Algid. I think he might be caught up too much in work to be paying attention to what's going on here, but I think he's a rational individual that he's going to say, you know what, yeah, let's start doing something about it. And
I hope so.
you know what I'm saying, because we do need change for everybody's sake.
Yes.
And you know, and tragedies occur,
yes.
And you know, it gets us. We're still here. We're still fighting. We're still moving forward, and you have become a great leader in our community. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
And if you do run, well, God bless you and best of luck. You know.
Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Until next time.
If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen If Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there. Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.